Thorium as a fossil fuel alternative.
I'm Xavier Dennison.
And I'm Cameron Guy.
I'm Nathan Aguirre.
I'm Elliot Clay.
We are here today to discuss with you an alternative to fossil fuel energy consumption.
The world relies heavily on the extractive industry to provide a fuel source for modern vehicles. Fossil fuels have been the dominant source of energy production in the 21st century. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration in 2010, 84% of American energy demands are met by fossil fuels. The problem is that fossil fuel sources will run out, ultimately forcing society to utilize alternative energy vehicles and anticipate advanced technological solutions to fuel automobile energy needs. Worldwide, there is a great concern regarding the greenhouse effects caused by fossil fuel emissions. For example, nitrous oxide, sulfur oxide, and carbon dioxide.
According to the U.S. Department of Energy, the U.S. consumes more oil annually than it produces. Because of global warming and the depletion of fossil fuels, a major challenge we face is to provide the world's population with renewable, sustainable, and cleaner alternative energy for transportation sources. Sources of energy that are renewable, which means that no matter how much they are used, there will always be more available, should replace fossil fuels in order to cease dependence on non-renewable energy. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency states that California is one of the states where residents are the greatest consumers of vehicles running on alternative fuels. Alternative energy cars such as hybrids, plug-in hybrids, fuel cell vehicles, and battery electric vehicles are being used. Although these vehicles are used, changing sources of electricity over time will be necessary to begin reducing the carbon footprint of electric generation. Carbon footprint. Electricity is a significant source of energy in the United States and is used to power homes, businesses, and industry. The combustion of fossil fuels to generate electricity is the largest single source of CO2 emissions in the nation, accounting for about 38% of total U.S. CO2 emissions and 31% of U.S. greenhouse gas emissions in 2012. The type of fossil fuels used to generate electricity will emit different amounts of CO2. To produce a given amount of electricity, burning coal will produce more CO2 than oil or natural gas. Even as we speak, fully electric vehicles are already available for consumers. However, their adoption on a large scale will take decades because of the charging infrastructures that need to be deployed. Electric vehicles increase load on the electric power grid, which in turn causes more emissions at polluting power plants. Power plants use coal, which is a fossil fuel source. According to a Norwegian University of Science and Technology, during manufacturing, electric vehicles are twice as harmful to the environment than conventional cars due to the electricity provided from fossil fuels. If we can change the power plant's energy source and remove the coal fossil fuel, we can remove the environmental effects from the carbon emissions as well as the fossil fuel dependence.
With thorium energy, no air pollution or greenhouse gases are produced. Thorium can provide the source for the electricity without emissions. Why is it important? Thorium could be used to power the energy plants where the alternative vehicles are made and to power the cars. Thorium can power the batteries that run the electric cars, and thorium can provide the source for electricity to the electrical charging stations for the plug-in vehicles. Thorium is much safer and there is no risk of environmental radiation contamination or plant explosion. Thorium is much more efficient at producing energy. Over 90% of the input fuel would be tapped for energy versus less than 1% in today's reactor power plants. Thorium is less waste generating. Most of the radioactive byproducts would take days to weeks to degrade to safe levels. Liquid fluoride thorium reactors do not need to be located next to large water supplies as current plants do. The byproducts of the thorium reaction cannot be used to make nuclear weapons, which make it less controversial. Thorium is much more plentiful than uranium. There is virtually no danger of running out with thorium. We don't have to worry about the sun being out for solar energy or about the wind for wind energy. And energy is still produced cleanly without harming the environment, and we won't run out of fossil fuels.
Some may ask, if thorium is the answer, why isn't it used? The reason thorium is not currently used as the fuel source for power plants is that uranium is. During the $2 billion Manhattan Project that produced the atomic bomb that was funded by the government, it was discovered that thorium reactors do not produce plutonium, which is what was needed to make a nuke. Today, the country is not looking to make bombs, so we do not need a fuel for nuclear weapons. Only nuclear energy that could provide a power source for power plants for electric vehicles. Studies and experiments were conducted from the 1950s until the 1970s. Almost 20,000 hours of operation, and the true value of thorium was proven as a superlative energy source in the molten salt reactor experiment between 1964 through 1975. Due to lack of funding, the project no longer exists. The concept has been proven, and with bureaucratic support and funding, thorium could provide the power source for electric vehicles. It is estimated that by 2030, if the political and economic support is obtained, the world could lower the carbon footprint and reduce the fossil fuel dependence significantly. Beyond 2030, many improvements can be achieved that would allow for the actual replacement of coal-powered plants with thorium nuclear power plants. The Chinese government has already promised to reduce carbon emissions between 40% and 45% by 2020 from its 2005 values. The government is promoting AFVs and funds research and development for alternative technologies. China is currently developing thorium nuclear power plant. Looking to the future, there are hurdles that will need to be addressed in order to move past the economical and political hold that prevents progression toward an adaptable solution, such as energy from thorium, a renewable, naturally occurring mineral that is safer than uranium in powering power plants. World and U.S. economies are heavily dependent on non-renewable fossil fuel energy. Assuming current estimated reserves and consumption rates, there will be significant shortages of some fossil fuels by 2100. Fossil fuels will eventually be used up. Fossil fuel consumption is a contributor to rising CO2 and particulate concentrations in the atmosphere. Rising CO2 allegedly linked to global warming is produced by present primary energy sources. Alternative energy sources are presently not cost competitive with fossil fuels except in special areas. Developing cost-effective alternative energy sources will be necessary to maintain our civilization.